Hey folks, welcome to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Sean. We got a good show for you today. Carlos is going to make a promise, or he's going to at least try to make a promise. Well, we'll see if he can make a promise. You know, I'm curious how he's going to react. And here's the promise he's going to make. The Lions are going to play Tampa on Sunday and either get to the NFC Championship game or their season's going to end. So it's going to be jubilation and surreal, the fact that they're going to be a game away from the Super Bowl. Or the season will be over and it'll be painful. It's been a great season, but there'll be some pain because, you know, they were this close to getting a chance to play for the Super Bowl. So his promise is that he's going to capture that one way or the other. And he's not going to write about the opposing quarterback. He's not going to troll or do anything like that. He's going to write about your Lions and the moment and whether it's painful or joyful or whatever it is. Let's see if Carlos can make that promise.
No, Sean, you're the maven, you're the sage. You get to capture all the big moments. I just do as I'm told, Sean, and you know, any way I can help support you, the great Dave Burkett, I'm happy to. So whatever my marching orders are, I will do that. I'll leave the big picture, the overview, the grand view of what happened. That's under your purview, Sean. I'm just there in a support role.
Not the big picture. No. Just the moment. Just the moment. Carlos is gonna take his considerable writing skills and talents and dig into the moment before him and whatever it is, and bring that brain power, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, nobody wants to read about Matthew Stafford or anything like that. So you're right. I'll just do a big, nice overview, do a down by down breakdown, red zone, third down, fourth down, quarterback passer rating. Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. You want me to off the side, Sean? You want me out of the way so you can.
No.
I want all the juicy stuff, right?
I want to know what you think about what you just watched. I want to know what you think about what you just witnessed. I want to know. I want your talents to capture whatever it is, because it's going to be a big deal, whatever it is, right? I mean, obviously a bigger deal if they win, but yeah.
You're just having fun. I know you're having fun, but I mean, let's not be disingenuous. There's a lot of people there. We can't all do the same thing. We all got to kind of spread out like a little army or a little platoon and take
we do.
What do you want to cover? What do you want to talk about? And
we do, but I don't. We do, but it's not fair to me for you to not be able to say, here's what happened and here's what it means, or here's what I think, or whatever. You know what I mean? That's not fair for you not to have that opportunity. That's what I'm saying.
No, I mean, we can always chime in as, you know, let's put it this way. The great thing about the free press is we can do as much as we want. I could be right as much opinion and thoughtful and this and that. And this is what it means and big picture and small picture. They'd be happy to take anything from any of us. So I never have my hands tied. I hope the listener out there doesn't think I'm being stopped from doing what I want to do. But I'm sorry. I found the Stafford thing to me was such an interesting arc, and, you know, covering for so many years and going out in LA a few times and all that stuff. I mean, to me, it's just one of the more fascinating storylines we've ever seen in the NFL, the swap of quarterbacks and the picks they got back and the general manager coming from all that stuff. It was truly a unique situation, unique experience. I don't know if we'll see that again. I mean, that's such a cool thing that happened in that game. And if you were lucky to be there, I mean, you know, watching the game again on TV, it just didn't capture it, Sean. I don't think. I mean, I don't know if you watched the TV replay, but you could hear it kind of louder, but you just can't. The one thing I would say is, like, people gripe about the prices of, you know, any ticket prices and all that. I would say an NFL game, college game for sure too. Football is much better in person. You get that the crowd, you know, the excitement, the emotion. That just doesn't come through on TV the same way. So if you were in that stadium, you were lucky to be there. It was a really cool moment.
Well, and it was the story of two quarterbacks for sure, right? I mean, part of the reason the win felt so good was because of who they beat. I mean, that wasn't the whole reason. They hadn't won a playoff game in 32 years or whatever. So That was the main reason. But part of what juiced it up was the fact that it was Stafford. But the two stories were Stafford, and Goff, right? I mean, the way Goff was serenaded, the way, and I think
that was cool. That didn't come across on TV either, I thought.
No, and I think part of the reason he got treated the way he did was because Stafford was there.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If they'd been playing Philly or whatever, I don't know that. I mean, maybe he makes a game-winning drive. Maybe he makes a play at the end of the game and wins, and maybe they chant then. But I don't think it's the same. Do you? If
it's
Stafford's not there,
same, but I think we're kind of kidding in the press box. Like, this is the first and last time you'll ever hear his name chant. I don't know. I think maybe they liked that chant. It went out regularly through the spraying up throughout the game.
Started
when they showed him on
right?
the big screen. I think it'll go up again. Don't you?
Yeah, no, I do. No, I don't remember that we said it'd be the last time. I remember when it happened, leaning over to you and said, "There's no way he's ever heard anything like this in his life."
Right.
Now, maybe that was an unfair assumption on my part, but after the game, he said, "Yeah, I've never heard anything like that in my life." So
yeah, you
could tell you could tell this wasn't. And I tried to write about this a little bit. I mean, it's one thing when you've got an athlete who's one of the greatest ever, say, and they're in the midst of winning championships and MVPs and all that sort of thing. People get serenaded then. I can remember hearing Michael Jordan's name getting chanted at Old Chicago Stadium, but because he was in the midst of 6 titles and he was a cultural icon or whatever. Maybe I've heard the same with Brady in Foxborough, but it's different. A wild card game for quarterbacks, never won a playoff game. That's the point to your point, to the circumstances of the Rams, of Stafford, of the history of the Lions. Obviously, it just all kind of came together. You just don't normally see a player get serenaded who hasn't accomplished a ton on the bigger scale in the market that he plays in.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think that, I mean, you haven't seen it because we haven't seen this kind of a team in this situation, with the longest playoff drought victory playoff drought in the NFL. We haven't seen this before. And I think the Lions fans seized on that moment, the magnitude of it, and knew, yes, it was a lot of that was because of Stafford, and they were supporting Goff, and booing Stafford, but I think they understood, like, this is a huge. It's not to the rest of the NFL. It's a wild card game,
right?
To Lions fans, this is our first home game, and whatever, 30 years, and
30,
it's the first one in Ford Field and all. I mean, it was just a huge moment. So there was a lot more to this game. And I'll be curious to see how much that carries over to the second game, because now the novelty's probably worn off just a tiny bit, and it's Tampa. There's no deep history animosity with them, so it'll be curious to see. I think they'll be ramped up for sure, but I don't know if the emotion will be quite the same.
I just think it'll be different. I mean, I could totally be wrong, but I think the emotion will be this. I think the intensity level and the noise will be the same, just for different reasons. Because now, what's at stake is a chance to play for the Super Bowl. I cannot believe that we're talking about that, right? But that's what's at stake now. So that's
you got to go through 49ers probably to get
no. But that doesn't matter. If they win, they get a shot to play for the Super Bowl, and that's kind of crazy. Yeah, right. That's kind of crazy. I mean, so I think the emotion, the intensity will reflect that opportunity. There's not going to be the history with Stafford and the trying to break the streak of the playoff game drought, all that sort of stuff. That's all done, like you say. But now, okay, what's out there? All of a sudden, it's like it's a new place, right? It's happened one time in their franchise in the Super Bowl era. It's happened once, and that was 1991. So it's new. It's new to a generation, maybe 2 generations of people, right? Of fans.
Yeah, it'll be. I love the way this short storyline is shaping up too, right? It's going to be, Stafford number 1 overall pick against Goff number 1 overall pick against Baker Mayfield number 1 overall pick. And they're going to lose to Mr. Irrelevant, to Brock Purdy, last guy picked in the draft in San Francisco. So,
I mean, well, they could lose Sunday. I mean, right? They could.
They could, but they shouldn't.
Well, I mean, yes and no. Playoff games are difficult, though, right? They're not easy.
Absolutely. There's no question.
Tampa's won 5 of 6. I was at that game, and I know both the teams are different. I was at that game back in October, early October, whatever it was. And the Lions struggled to move the ball. Now, they didn't have Gibbs. I want to say Jonah Jackson was out that day. But the linebackers, they couldn't run the ball. Now, Gibbs maybe helps that some. And Montgomery got hurt early, and it was mostly Craig Reynolds. But they couldn't run the ball. And that was part of it. They got a couple big plays. One to Jamison Williams. That might have been his first touchdown of his career. I can't. Maybe that was his first touchdown. And another big one to St. Brown. It was a huge play. I can't remember what quarter that was. But they did not much up and down the field then. Tampa's got one of the better defenses. They're better defensively than L.A. So,
yes,
right?
Yes.
It might be a slog, and Baker Mayfield is playing pretty well. It's kind of a sneaky, scary game for the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, you get to this point in the season and you have to be playing well. Now, Philadelphia did not play well, so they are not a great barometer for how good or whatever, how convincing that win was. But the Bucs did play well. I mean, I think just objectively, they moved the ball. Baker played well. The defense, held Jalen Hurts in check, and everybody's banged up to some point at the season. I think Hurts was a little bit sore, but Mayfield's also dealing with some stuff. But they I think they opened as 6-point favorites. The Lions, playing at home should be a pretty big advantage. The Bucs are hot. I think they've won 7 of their last
6 or 7, I think,
in the regular season. So now 8 of the last 9.
I want to say they're 6 or 7 because they were 9 and 8 going into the game.
Yeah, they won 7 of 8 in the regular season coming in, and then No, I'm sorry. This is the Rams. I'm sorry. I was looking at the Rams.
Yeah. I was going to say
the Rams were hot too. That's the thing. The Rams. That was the scary thing, right? The same thing. The Rams are hot, and it's like,
and look at that game, hot. Right? Look at the game.
Yeah,
it came down to to the very end.
Absolutely.
And it's not going to be a shocker. It won't be a shocker if this one does either, right? If it's a fourth quarter game.
Yeah, it should. I wouldn't expect it to be a blowout. if the Lions win, so it can go either way. But this would be a disappointment if they vanquish Matthew Stafford. And then they lose to the Tampa Bay. What are they? What were they? The 4th seed, I guess, right? Because they won their division. So that would be disappointing. But it could happen. Of course, anything can happen. The Cowboys can lose. To the Packers can happen. So, but I mean, wouldn't you think they should be the pretty clear favorites? I mean, it's hard to pick against the Lions right now.
No, they're favorites, but games like this, just if you're a fan of that team, now the Lions themselves, the players themselves, I don't think you're going to be nervous, but it's just, I think they understand how difficult this is going to be, how physical Tampa is, how well they've been playing, the way they match up. Sometimes it's just about matchups. I'm like I said, the Lions run the ball well. The Tampa's probably got the best run defense, one of the best 2-3 run defenses in the league, and that makes it trickier on Goff. Now, Goff had a pretty good game at Tampa and threw for, I want to say, a season high in yards. And a couple of those were big plays, though, right? But I also remember Baker Mayfield just barely missing Mike Evans, maybe even Chris Godwin, maybe Palmer at one point. They were, what we've seen the last few weeks, Tampa had from the opposing passing games, Tampa had that opportunity, and they just couldn't quite connect. And so they only scored, I want to say, 6 points. I don't expect it to be held to 6 points again. I mean, the Lions are going to have to make some plays. So, yeah, I don't think this is a walkover at all. They can obviously win. They're favored to win. And you're right, it will be a disappointment. But I think the disappointment would be more that they're so close to the NFC Championship game. Right. Not like, oh, my God, they collapsed and choked or whatever. They're playing a really good team. I just don't buy into that at this point in the playoffs. I mean, right? Maybe I guess you miss a field goal or you throw a pick.
Well, it depends how they lose.
Yeah, if they get blown out or whatever, but
if they lose by double digits, I think that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, no, that would be unless it's a late, 10-point game and it's a late score or whatever. But yeah, no, it's if they're not in the game, like if Tampa comes in and controls the whole game, that'd be surprising. Like what they did to Philly.
Yeah, and I think you said Gibbs wasn't in. I don't think he played in that game, earlier.
And Montgomery got hurt early too.
Yeah, and it's a different run. It's a different, not only run game, but it's a different offense with Gibbs now. He's playing at a different level. We've seen him grow and get better. I think he's clearly the better running back over him and Montgomery. I mean, it's a good duo to have, but Gibbs has become the dominant running back, the guy that they need to lean on, that is explosive and makes a lot of things happen. Obviously Laporta showed up. I mean, he his presence, caught a touchdown pass, but he was able to get through that game and, contribute. That was a big thing for them. So right now, I think the Lions are pretty healthy. They've got momentum. They're going to play at home. That's a huge advantage. I mean, they couldn't really ask for much more right now. I mean, I don't know, CJ Gardner-Johnson's back, it's just things are breaking their way right now. And
maybe they get James Houston back, right?
Maybe.
Possible.
It's possible. I guess that Campbell has not seemed to indicate that he's close, but maybe. And that's something they would definitely need, is they still need, they still have to rely on the blitz so much to get some pressure on the quarterback, and Baker Mayfield has ability to escape. We saw it in the Philly game. We've seen it, even though he's got some hurt ribs, he can move around and get a few yards and either get a first down or come close to it and make third down manageable and all that stuff. So, and he's got I like his game. I mean, I really like how, aggressive he is, how emotional he is, how he makes things happen, makes plays happen, keeps plays alive. I just don't think they have the offensive power that the Lions have. So if it turns into a shootout, the Lions would probably have the upper hand, kind of like they did with the Rams a little bit. So there's nothing at this point. I think the one lock you probably think, is San Francisco over Green Bay. That should be a lock. But,
man.
Yeah,
the way Jordan Love's been playing, I don't know. I mean, who knows?
That defense though is just, and you're playing in San Francisco. That's going to be tough. But yes, sure, anything can happen. I mean, I would say, who knows what's going to happen here? But the Lions have a great opportunity in front of them. It's not a lock, but it's going to be interesting with this game because they know what's at stake. I mean, Tampa's 3 years removed from the Super Bowl, from winning the Super Bowl. I mean,
they've got some Super Bowl players on their team, right?
Players on their team, but they themselves as an organization have won it. And it's not like this is our only chance we've ever had. And, I mean, they've been a very good team for a while, different regimes and all that, different coaches. But yeah, it's going to be, it's there for the taking. They don't really have an excuse unless something weird happens in the game, but they would this is their moment. This is their moment to get to the NFC Championship and have a chance, like you said, to go to the Super Bowl, which is crazy to say, but
it is crazy. And that's the thing. It's just the opportunity. It's you hate to say historic because it sounds like you're overstating it, but we're really not. I mean, it's just kind of the reality of how the last several decades have unfolded for this franchise. So to be at the doorstep, it'll be one win away from that opportunity. Obviously, San Francisco's been the best team in the NFC all season. The Cowboys, I guess, had a little bit of a run there, but the 49ers are the most complete team in the NFC and they've been the best team in the NFC all season. And you wouldn't expect the Lions to be able to go out there and do that, but you never know, right? So you want the chance. You want the chance to go out and see what that's like, what that feels like, what that takes. Even if you lose, then you got that in your memory. You've been through that. You see where you need to get better. You know what I mean? I think that's all valuable too.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a good point of, it's in their memory and it's now on their resume. And if it's not this year, that's something they can potentially build toward. We were close, and that you see that teams don't get there right away necessarily. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, and you learn from these experiences. teams change. Obviously the Lions are almost certainly going to lose Ben Johnson, and things will change in the coaching ranks. But yeah, as an organization, certainly the head coach, the GM, they're going to learn something from this, and they do. They talk about it all the time. If you lose, you lose, you beat the Bucs, you go to San Francisco, you get, you win, you lose handily, whatever. And you learn about that. And what do you learn probably is they have a dominant defense and we had a great offense, but we just couldn't move the ball. And it's hard. And we're going to have to do something about that defense. It's going to underscore the importance of doing more, either, changing coordinators, adding more players, whatever it might be, changing some position coaches, whatever it might be that you need to do to get your side better, to match what that team is doing if you meet them again. Because we could see that. I mean, the Lions and the 49ers, they could be now, the teams to beat going forward for a while. Brock Purdy's young. And, if the offense keeps going at this clip, even without Ben Johnson or something close to it, you shore up that defense with the Lions and you could be the power of the NFC pretty easily.
Well, notwithstanding what's happening, what could happen in Green Bay, that's the problem. Right? If Jordan Love is going to turn into what he's showing flashes of right now, that's a scary thought. But that's a different thought. Although, who knows? I mean, we could be talking a week from now about Jordan Love coming in here. I know that's crazy to say. Or we could talk about the end of the season. I don't know. All these possibilities. It's going to be fun, and it's certainly not boring, right, Carlos?
It's a fascinating time to be alive right now, Sean, especially if you're a Lions fan.
Yeah, no, for this area and this history and just the emotion of everything, and everywhere you go, they're the talk of the community, and it's amazing. You have a college team with this brand and as big as Michigan win a national championship for the first time since 1997 and be overshadowed by a team that just won a wild card game. But that's exactly what's happened. It's fascinating. But let's take a break and talk about that other football team here and their coach a little bit. You wrote a column. You have some thoughts on Jim Harbaugh, some life lessons. You like to dole out your life lessons. So we'll do that on the other side when we come right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Sean. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Sean. Carlos, I can't believe you got me defending Matthew Stafford. I mean, the backwards cap wearing, this guy. Look, I'm not going to say anything about his character. I don't know him privately, whatever. None of us do, really. I'm not going to say a word. He's very, very good at keeping that to himself, and more power to him. A lot of people are like, it's like Matt Damon. Matt Damon, I saw an interview with him one time. He's like, hey, if you know anything about me, then you're not going to believe what I'm doing on the screen, because you're going to know too much about me, and you're going to be distracted by that when you're watching. And not only that, I just want my privacy. And to me, Stafford's the same way. Anyway, I can't believe you got me defending him. That's just how it goes. All right. Yeah, the Lions are the big deal. But what Michigan did was kind of a big deal. They won the national championship. And now the question is, does their coach return or not? And I'm curious, when you sit down and write a column like you did this week, I can't remember what day you wrote it, that saying Jim Harbaugh needs to stay in Ann Arbor. What are you feeling in that moment? Are you feeling like you have something to offer that he hadn't thought of? Or are you feeling like that's just the role of the job? I'm genuinely curious when you write something like that, where that comes from.
I worry that he's making the wrong decision to go back to the NFL. I think that he belongs at Michigan. We talked about it for years, right? Through all the Rich Rod era and the Brady Hoke era, and just that was it ever going to be Harbaugh? It should be Harbaugh. There was a minute about Les Miles, whatever, but it always seemed to be pointing. All roads seem to lead to Harbaugh, and he's finally here, and he's finally done it. He owns Ohio State. He wins a national championship. Got to the semifinal last year. It just seems like this is what this program has been waiting for a very long time. You couldn't ask for something better, a former star player for them. And it's here. And, frankly, as a, just as a whatever fan or observer, I'm sick of the stupid SEC winning all these titles and Alabama and whatever and Clemson and what, it's just like another conference needs a chance. And, yes, Ohio State has won some, maybe another conference and another not Ohio State, spread it around. And I think Michigan is one of those just blue blood programs in college football. It's good to see them, even if I didn't live here and I'm not from here, really don't have many ties to Michigan, but it's good to see it. It's good to see that. It's good to see that story. Kind of, like Steve Spurrier, kind of a little bit, right, with Florida and a Heisman Trophy winner and all that, and getting them a title, sort of like that was. And, I think the NFL and the column, talked about how teams, coaches, executives, whatever, they when they get to the Super Bowl and they lose it like he did, a few years, 10 years ago, whatever it was, to his brother when the 49ers lost to the Ravens, that hurts. And there's an emptiness there, a void, because you got so close. And it's something that hurts, as a competitor, as a whatever. And I'm sure it bothers him. And he probably it's something he wants to redeem, but I don't think it'll matter. I think if you look at and he has a complicated relationship with the university because of all the different things with flirting with the NFL and now the NCAA investigations and stuff. But I just think he belongs at Michigan. I see, and one of the things he's so far as we're recording this, he's interviewed with the LA Chargers and the Atlanta Falcons, and NFL teams just don't have that, loyalty to their coaches. The fan bases don't. They just, it's rare to be appreciated. Even if I made the comparison to the Rams. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they have such a lackluster following and interest in Los Angeles. Part of it's the market, but obviously the Chargers would be even worse. They're the stepchild in LA. So yeah, at least hopefully he goes to a team that would appreciate him. But I just think I'd rather he's 60. I don't see him going to the NFL for 3, 4, 5 years, not working out, and then trying to come back in his mid to late 60s, either to Michigan or another college program. It's just just it'd be nice for him to stay put, build his legacy, win another, maybe 1, 2 national championships. That would be an amazing legacy to leave at Michigan.
Yeah, it would. I think his legacy's set, though. He's surpassed Bo Schembechler. He's done something Bo Schembechler could never do.
Has he surpassed them, though? Bo's like a god at Ann Arbor, even though we didn't.
Not to anybody under 40 or 50. Even maybe 50 at this point.
There's a hall with a statue outside of it.
Fielding Yost is a building named after him, and nobody knows that. Nobody remembers that. It's just at this point, yeah, he did something Schembechler could never do.
But has he done? Is he Lloyd Carr? Lloyd Carr won 1 too. He wins 2, and he's a god. He
Lloyd Carr won 1, but he had to share it, and it wasn't as hard to win it then, as it is now. What Harbaugh just accomplished?
It'd be harder, yeah.
And now it's going to get even harder, right? With the 12-team playoff, and how much harder the Big Ten is going to become because of the expansion and just kind of getting through that. So, no, I don't know. I think his legacy's fine. I think it's set. You win a couple more, maybe it changes a little bit. But what's interesting to me, though, and maybe this is a little bit too much inside baseball, but what's interesting to me is the idea that, I was thinking about this when I read your column. I can imagine writing a column saying Steven Spielberg should go do direct plays. You know what I mean? It's weird that we do this. It's weird that we do this in sports. I think of sports like I do any other sort of creative endeavor, and we're the critics, and that's been around as long as we've basically had civilization. But we usually just comment on the work. Hey, the job that they're doing, that they direct something, what their acting performance was like, how the novel is written, what the painting is like, what the offensive schemes are like, or can they win, or can they get a team ready, whatever. there are millions of things to talk about, but only in sports do we write, well, he needs to go take this job. I know what's best for him. You know what I mean? And you're not the only one that does it. It's a really odd dynamic that we feel like we can say, well, I know what's best for your life. We would never do that with anybody. I mean, we don't even really do that.
Of course we do it all the time. We do.
We don't even do that much with people in our own life unless they're really close to us. And I mean, obviously parents do that with children. Maybe siblings do with spouses. But like you and I've had conversations before about our careers or whatever we're doing, but it's usually because we ask the other. You know, you don't just come out and say, well, Carlos, I think you should do this. That doesn't come unless there's, well, what do you think? But for whatever reason, in this weird one little space and newspaper columns, in the sports pages, we feel like we can say, here's what's best for a complete and total stranger and their life. We're not talking about, is he a good coach or not? Or should he be fired or not? Or, you know, hey, he needs to change this. He needs to recruit this kind of player and get away from that kind of player. Don't you think it's kind of, I mean, it's just that little thing. It's an interesting exercise that we feel the freedom to say, I know what's best for you when I don't even know you.
I would disagree with that, Sean. I mean, you know, I know you read probably movie criticism and stuff, and people talk about that all the time, that this role is not suited for this, you know, actor or actress, you know, a director stepping into a different genre, maybe shouldn't. You know, food criticism, I'm sure gets the same thing as somebody opens up, you know, whatever. Michael Simon's known for pork and he opens up Japanese fusion and it doesn't work. You know, maybe he needs to stay in his lane more. And, you know, people do it all the time. I think in politics, right? Same thing. This person shouldn't really be running for president or, you know, whatever. They're not suited for certain, maybe executive office. I think we do it all the time. But it's part of it. It's part of you know, I don't think we're writing this person's a bad person or a good person or whatever. It's just what suits them within the scope of their profession or their career arc, or whatever. What would be the best for them? Where do you see it?
I don't think we do that. I don't think we say what's the best for their life. I don't think we do that at all. I think we say, wow, he's not doing or she's not doing a very good job cooking this, and we leave it at that. I don't think we do that in other areas. I think it's unique to our trade. It's sort of fascinating, you know. And I think it comes out of this back when newspapers carried. I mean, were the major voice in any particular city or region, and columnists became sort of a voice of a community, almost like a paternalistic voice. And a lot of kids, let's face it, there were no women doing this; it was all men. So it was a kind of almost a part of a patriarchy in a way. It was the idea that you can sit there up. I'm not saying you particularly, but we would sit there up on high and say, this is what's best for us. It was very pedantic. And for whatever reason, and there used to be city columnists like that too, maybe. We don't really have that so much anymore, but we still have it in sports. And it's just, when I see it now, it's like, oh, it's interesting. Because again, you're not talking about whether he's a good coach or not, right? You're talking about what's best for him. And that's such an interesting thing to say about somebody you don't know at all when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's best for it's like when you're talking about what's better for their career, not for them personally, you know, of course, you don't know who they are. But
that kind of bleeds together. You're not saying what's best for Michigan, which makes right. No, now that, right. Hey, here's what's best for the Michigan football program. Thing. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And we all do that to a degree. No, but I read that and I just thought, and I started thinking about the history of that and the role of that and just how fascinating that is within our little neck of the woods, our little sort of turf.
Would you feel
that we still do that?
I mean, and it happens in the media too, you know, I mean, when people, high profile sports reporters, you know, switch to something else. You know, I mean, I remember Stephen A. Smith, he had his own show for a little while on HBO. And, you know, I think he got a lot of criticism for it, for, you know, is this really suiting him? Is this the right thing? I mean, Jamel Hill, former coworker, right? When she had her show on ESPN, and, you know, people were wondering, you know, is that the right fit for her? And, you know, viewers chime in, you know, I don't like her, I do. And there's
for sure. That's it. That's the thing. I don't like her, I do. I don't like what she's saying.
I don't like what she's. They're just talking about she's not
she's
suited for
ruined
this, or
ruined Sports Center, whatever. She's not, whatever. Yeah. But it's usually a reaction to whatever somebody's producing or creating.
right.
Or leading.
And nobody cares what's good for your life or what, they don't know. But I mean, if someone told me, hey, you're better suited for whatever, picking up garbage rather than writing columns, like, yeah, okay, that's your opinion. You'd rather her, oh, I used to like the way you wrote whatever, features or something, or, you're not suited for this. Like, yeah, I know they don't care what I need in my life and whatever professional development or challenges and this and that. They just think, oh, I liked his stuff in another area better than what he's doing now.
No,
everybody makes judgments in that way.
No, they do, but again, it's not like you say you worry about his legacy or you worry about what's, we're talking about what's best for him. And I just find that interesting. I just find that interesting because for me, like I said, I could do that with the people that I'm close with if they ask me. I mean, obviously you do it with your kids when they're young, but the role of a parent is to sort of stop yourself from doing it as a parent as they get older. You still give them your opinion and you tell them what you think, but as they get older, you try to give them your opinion, tell them what you think when they ask you. You're not trying to tell them how to live when they get older. I mean, you're telling them how to live from the minute they're born until for however long, but part of the job as a parent. So it's interesting to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The idea that it just fascinates me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with you.
So, in any case, let's talk about whether he's going to go or not. I mean, we don't know, right? He's done this for the last few years. He's now interviewed with the Falcons and the Chargers. Hard to see him going to the Falcons because of the quarterback situation, but who knows? Maybe he sees something. He obviously sees the game at a much different level than we do and understands potential and so on and so forth. His brother made an interesting comment the other day, John Harbaugh, the coach of the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, and of course he's biased and it's his brother, so take it with a grain of salt. But he said, look, there are a few coaches right now that are better just team builders, that just go in and know how to build a team. And I was thinking about that. And, you can dismiss it if you want because it's his brother, or you can say, okay, that makes some sense because he's done that wherever he's been. He's got a record of it. There's proof in it. So, it seems like if he goes back to the NFL, he'd probably have some success building a team again. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, I think the question with Harbaugh is just, how well his coaching and his methods translate. And because things change quickly in the NFL, players, their appetites, their way of doing things, and different teams respond different ways. The culture in a building, if it's not the way that suits a coach, then you've got to change it. That can't be easy necessarily. You had something, one little thing was like Matt Stafford was, his wife got in trouble because she mentioned earlier this year in the summer, I think it was, that Stafford had mentioned, that it's harder to connect with younger players now because they're all on their phones. Like nobody's in the locker room talking as much as they used to. And Stafford's like 35. He's not an old man, and, maybe Harbaugh is more used to it because he's in the college ranks and does nothing but deal with young players. But you never know when the connection is going to be hard to make and how he's going to work with the front office, and ownership. So that's kind of what the problem was in San Francisco, is he just didn't meet eye to eye with the general manager, with ownership. It was a strained relationship. Harbaugh is unique. He does things his own way. And, to me, I think he would be a good coach. My gut says that. My gut says he knows the game. He's performed at a very high level. He's obviously at the highest level he can be in college. I don't doubt that, he can. I would bet he gets damn close to a Super Bowl, if not wins it. But does it work within the organization? Because the difficulty of being a head coach is you got to manage down to your players, sideways, laterally with your GM or your personnel staff or whoever might be, and then up with ownership and team president or whatever it is. You got to handle all those complex relationships. And as we've seen with Harbaugh, with San Francisco and also at Michigan, it hasn't been the smoothest, when he's had to deal with administration or ownership or whatever it is. He's not built that way to be a yes man and we're all on the same page guy and whatever. He does things his own way. It works. To me, the best situation for him would be if he went somewhere and basically was given personnel authority to make drafting decisions and cutting players and whatever. Like the GM is just a functionary who will execute his personnel wishes. So I don't know if he can get that. I mean, he'd have to. I don't know if he's at that level. If there's anybody, maybe like it's not going to happen now, but Stephen Ross with the Dolphins, he would probably give him that. But obviously, Mike McDonald's there. He's entrenched. That's not going to happen anytime soon. But I think he would be. Don't you think he could get back to a Super Bowl or have that kind of level of success?
Yeah, no, I think he could take a team that was out of the playoffs, get back to the playoffs, and then from there you got to get a little bit lucky. But those 49er teams that he helped build and shape, obviously the GM was there and got the talent, but I just remember those. I remember thinking of those teams as just physical and tough. They were a hard-hitting group, weren't they? Obviously took a chance on Kaepernick and that worked out, but that was important for sure. And Kaepernick played really well for him, but they were just a menacing group. And that's kind of like what these Wolverines, we just sort of got not overplayed, but overlooked for a lot of the fall. People were skeptical because of the early schedule and how weak it was. And just this it's different college, the whole SEC, Big Ten dynamic. The not the prejudices, but the sort of the built-in ideas that we have about where players are from and how they play and what it means if you're wearing an Alabama uniform. But it turns out Michigan had the most physical team in college this year, and we didn't realize it until they were blowing Alabama off the ball in the Rose Bowl, and that's like, oh, this is different. Well, and then they did the same thing to Washington, more or less. So that's how I think of Harbaugh. For whatever reason, he's got some kind of ability to get this. It's like he changes the structure. There's some kind of alchemy going on. And I know it's not just him. It's, at college it is because he's recruiting too. But at the pros, you got to have a general manager to get the talent. But there's something about him, and he goes someplace, and the way those teams start to play, they just get physical and tough and nasty to a degree. And he's done that wherever he's been. And he's got a gift for that. It comes out of him somehow and ends up on the field in his players. And I would bet that's not going to change if he gets back to the NFL.
Yeah, that's to me, and that's where, in a way, like I think the Dolphins with Stephen Ross as the owner would be the perfect match because he would let Harbaugh be Harbaugh, I would imagine. Like he's smart enough to know this guy's built a little bit differently, but he gets the most out of his players. There's a toughness in these teams that's sustainable. You just can't, you're going to have to let certain things go. And I think, to me, let me ask you this, Sean, how big of a mistake would it be for Michigan to let Harbaugh go? To not, supposedly there's a report from Dan Wessel and Yahoo saying that they're working on, there's discussions about putting language. They've already offered him a new contract, but he wants language in there that basically protects him from being fired in case this NCAA investigation, whatever, comes out a way that the regents or administrators or whatever don't like it, that he can protect himself from being fired. How do you think, how big a mistake would it be for Michigan to not say, sure, whatever, you're fine, we want you as a coach, even if you get suspended for another half season, full season, whatever?
Well, I guess it depends on who's making that decision, but yeah, they should do what they can to keep him, and the money's already there on the table. And I saw that report too. I think Michael Rosenberg, former colleague of ours who worked at the Free Press, works for Sports Illustrated now, and who knows Harbaugh pretty well as probably anybody can know him in the media. He made a really good point the other day that beyond even just the practical matter of, hey, have my back in a contract if the NCAA comes down on me, more. He wants to feel wanted. That there's a psychology there. He wants to feel wanted. Anything else, that contract clause is part of it. But on the grander scale, there's something in his personality where he wants to feel wanted, and that he'll go
like
wherever
every human. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That he'll go wherever No, but it's different with him, right? Because he's different a little bit, and there's specific things. I mean, a lot of people understand they're appreciated and wanted without having to be hit over the head. You know that from working in a newsroom. You know that from working in journalism, where some people need to be told a lot more than others that they're doing a good job or that their stuff is good or whatever. You know, it's just different. We all have different.
Sure.
Needs
Absolutely.
that way. I mean, we share it. Everybody wants to be appreciated or whatever, but there are degrees and there are levels to it, and his is pretty high, according to Michael. And I thought that was a really good point. In the end, he's going to go where he's wanted, and I know that sounds like an oversimplification, but I totally understand what he means by that.
But they're all going to want him. It's just different. It's different levels. I think that's obvious. That's I trust what Mike would write about that and what he would think, and very close to Jack and Jim to some extent,
and to John even to a degree, yeah,
and but it's all just different levels. I mean, if they're interviewing for a job, and if it's if the Falcons are interviewing you, but they really want Bill Belichick or whatever, you can kind of feel that, right? Or
absolutely,
if the Chargers want you, like. You can feel it. Coaches, even through a Zoom interview, this is it. We want you. This is what's going to happen. Justin Herbert, you're going to this, that, whatever. We have this. We're going to build you, whatever. You can feel that. And hopefully he's feeling it from Michigan beyond just the money and the contract. He has enough people. I'm sure he does. I'm sure there are people at that university and administration and whatever and athletics who are like, you're our guy. We're going to make this happen. It's going to work. I hope that they're smart enough to not just say, here's the deal. Here's a language. We'd love to have you back, Jim. Let's just sign on the dotted line and that's it. He needs to feel some assurance and some, level of belief. Really, is that what it comes down to? Belief, loyalty, appreciation, all that stuff. And it's been a little bit of a bumpy road with him. It's a fairly bumpy road, not a little bit, but a bumpy road with him at Michigan. But I hope I can't imagine. I mean, what you lose Harbaugh. Where is Michigan going to go now? Do they bring back Rich Rod? What do they do? They got to go start over, and we're going to go back into the dark ages again.
They probably hire Sharon Moore. I mean, who knows? That's a different story, a different conversation. What they would do, but I would imagine they'll do everything they can. And if it's not enough because he ultimately wants to go to the NFL or he has an opportunity in the NFL where he feels like it's a great fit, they want him, he wants to see if he can get back there and do that, then there's probably nothing Michigan can do. So I don't know, it would be fair to say it was a mistake if that's what he wants. You know what I mean?
Oh, if that's what he wants, there's nothing they can do about it. Absolutely. I do get the weird feeling, like I wrote, that he will go back to the NFL at some point. I also think that Michigan does have a decided advantage of having him already. He's there. He knows people. There's a lot of people at that university in the athletic department to be able to say, you're here. We are not going to let you go. As we know, in any business, our business for sure in journalism, there are people who they make decisions. I have an opportunity to go somewhere else, but sometimes it works out that your current employer can say, hey, you're here. What do you need? We appreciate you. And you can keep your talent around. It happens all the time. And there's a strong pull to stay where you are. If you're generally happy, if you're successful, it's not always the grass is greener. So I would imagine Michigan does have a chance, and a slight advantage to keeping him. But like you said, yep, if the pull's way too strong and whatever they're offering,
it's hard to know. It's hard to know, right? It's hard to know. It's impossible. He's interviewing.
Only Harbaugh knows.
He's interviewing though, and that tells you something that he's interested. He wouldn't interview if he weren't interested. I don't think it's a leverage play. There's an offer on the table to make him the highest paid coach in the game in college football. I don't think it's leverage, man. Unless it's leverage with the contract and wanting even more assurances. I guess it could be that, but I think he's interested. So there's that.
I think it is leverage to some extent because, and it's smart. It's a smart play because, when you interviewed with the Vikings and what did he swore up and down, right? I think he had a hand on the Bible when he talked to Mitch Albom, to our colleague, about this is it. I'm not doing this anymore. This is my last flirtation. I'm going to be faithful, all this stuff. And right away next year, boom, he's interviewing with other teams.
He can't help himself because it's out there. It's
out there. But it's also because, honestly, he's been treated in a way that he probably doesn't feel has been entirely fair from Michigan, having to basically take a pay cut. And
he might,
so I'm going to keep this on my side over here, on my side of the ledger. I'm going to let you know there's interest. And that's his kind of protection, right? And unfortunately, this is just how it has to work sometimes in all businesses. You're only going to get raises and whatever if you threaten to leave or remind people that, hey, I have other options, by the way. And then people are like, oh, suddenly the pocketbook flies open. Or whatever, your contract language changes.
That's very true. That's very true. I just don't think this is all a leverage play. I think he's genuinely interested in the NFL.
But a little bit, at least.
Genuinely interested in the NFL. And
both these can be true.
So, we'll see. We'll see. I think the Chargers would be a great fit. They could use some toughness, and they got a quarterback. And if he goes there,
go to the games.
But if with him, he'll change the calculus, though. His presence will make them more interesting. And if they start winning with him, he'll be a celebrity. That town loves celebrities, and he's quirky and different, whatever. I think he could be somebody that could actually change that franchise a little bit. I don't know if they'll do it or not, because there's usually a price to be paid a few years in. Unless he wins
Super Bowl after Super Bowl with the Chargers, it's not going to happen. That's just that team. That franchise is just awful. It just doesn't have the.
It is, but it's an area that loves celebrities, and obviously,
but he's not. The only reason he's really a celebrity here is because he's Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, and he played here and all that stuff.
He was a celebrity before he got here. He was a celebrity coach when he was at the 49ers.
He was. No, he was.
He got national attention all the time. Of course, he was.
No, you talk to the media there. He was not beloved. He was not.
The celebrities have nothing to do with being beloved. It has nothing to do with being beloved.
And don't forget the 49ers. They really support their team there. Their 49ers fans are really loyal and into it. And he was appreciated, but I don't think he didn't reach celebrity status. Don't forget there was a guy named Bill Walsh there. He was never going to be Bill Walsh. Again.
Oh my goodness. He was one of the most famous football coaches in America when he was with the 49ers. It had nothing to do with being beloved. Nothing to do with replacing Bill Walsh in that market or anything else. He has been a celebrity. I'm talking about Paris Hilton was a celebrity, right? That there's nothing to do with whether you're beloved. That town, that part of the country, and I shouldn't say just that because the whole country's like this. Especially that part of the country, they are interested in famous people. And
I did grow up there, as you know, and that's fleeting. For a minute, it'll be like, oh, Jim Harbaugh won a national title.
Well, that's what I just said. It'll last a few years.
How quickly that dissipates. People will not care very quickly.
No, they'll only care if he wins. Nobody cares about USC football right now. But when they were winning and they had the most famous running back in the country and Pete Carroll was doing his thing, whatever, they were like the biggest sports stars in town.
But USC was the Cadillac program. Football program, actually, even when the Rams were there and the Raiders, USC had a winning history, huge history there.
Because they had the running back with a smile who was electric, and they had this coach or whatever. They were famous. And they won. Now you have to win to be famous, right? But they
were fun. They were super. Things, by the way, with that. They went hand in hand. Pete Carroll was a dynamic coach, and he did something that was very rare in college football. Was he had unprecedented access to himself.
I remember going to practices there.
Yeah. Harbaugh's not going to be that. He's shut down. He's closed off. He's like,
but they were stars, and that's how you get noticed there is you got to be a star. Now he'd have to win to do that. But if Carroll and Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and Lindell White and all those other players, all those great players he had were all at UCLA, it would have been the same for UCLA. It's not, the jersey doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Wait, what did you say? You said that all that stuff would have been the same at UCLA?
If Pete Carroll had been UCLA's coach and Lendale White and Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and Carson Palmer, if all those players had come to UCLA with Pete Carroll and they had won at the exact same thing, everything else was the same, and they were the most dominant, dynamic team in college football, it would have been the same.
Absolutely not. Do you think if Harbaugh was a coach at Michigan State, it would be the same?
And he just won the national championship?
Yes.
Would he be as famous a coach?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, my God. Okay.
Absolutely. He absolutely would be.
Mm-hmm.
If he had come from the 49ers to take over at Michigan State and had won and ends up winning a national championship and getting in trouble with everybody, yeah, absolutely would.
All right.
It's about winning.
No,
nobody knows who the Detroit. No, the Detroit Lions have been an afterthought nationally for years, and now they're not. Why is that?
Because they have a great coach, but also they have an insane fan base that's been waiting for this and a super.
But what's different? Why have they been
the
an
best
afterthought?
fan base? Probably right up there with the Cleveland Browns, who are dedicated and have been way too patient. But
there's no question it's a great fan base, but that's not why they're known and talked about nationally right now. It's because they're winning.
Yeah, and they have a really fun, interesting coach, and people.
That's part of it.
And the number one thing, when we go out
and they're a fun team.
Stuff, people ask, what's Dan Campbell really like?
They're a fun team to watch, right?
Harbaugh will not be that way.
No. It's. I heard this from a few people, national people in the press box Sunday when they beat the Rams. They're a fun team. They're fun to watch. They're good, and they're fun to watch. USC was a blast to watch play football. They were electric. It had nothing to do with being USC. It had everything to do with the way they played football.
It had a lot to do with being USC.
That's just not for the rest of the country. It had to do with Reggie Bush would get the corner, and there was nothing else like him in football. It didn't translate to the pros, but
it's like, so to me, the difference a little bit is that when you have a great team, right, but you also make it easy for the media to come in and see your team and talk to your team and showcase them, that takes you to a different level. That's why Alabama under Saban wasn't the same, because he didn't have that level of charisma and fun and openness and access. USC was a unique time under Carroll. It's going to be hard to ever see that again, probably. But I'm just saying that the Harbaugh thing, he's not going to change that franchise unless he wins Super Bowl after repeated numerous Super Bowls. He turns into Bill Belichick or something, maybe. But it's just not going to be. He can't make that much of a difference. He'll be for sure the novelty, Jim Harbaugh, and then once people go to his first couple press conferences, it's going to be like, this guy doesn't. He's a tough. He's got to
win. He's got to win.
He's got to win. Yeah, but even
that's
he won in San Francisco, and they're
and he was one of the most fascinating coaches in sports. For better and for worse, whatever else you thought. Because what'd you say at the top of this segment? He's different. Well, whatever word you want to use, quirky, eccentric, whatever. That makes him interesting. To
an extent, yeah.
No, that makes you interesting. It's a celebrity thing, and it goes with winning, right? It's just kind of how the world works. But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. All right, we got to take one more break and get back to your favorite thing, which is obviously not celebrities. And even though you grew up in celebrity town, didn't you?
Phoenix, yes.
Maybe I was thinking Rancho Cucamonga, mostly because I just wanted to say that. All right, let's take one more break. We'll be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlson Sean. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlson Sean. It's that time of the show. It's Carl's favorite thing. I'm all ears, my brother.
All right, so my favorite thing was from about a week ago or so, and I was in LA last week. I was in LA.
No more LA stories.
One more from my hometown, and we'd been there. Sean, you'd been there with us. We were there together in November when they played the Chargers, and there were some shoes I was trying to buy, and there were just just leather sneakers. I'm touchy about my feet. I complain. My wife always says it's, like a princess about my feet. I have not weird feet, but a wide kind of foot. And so I'm always I'm probably 10 and a quarter. And sometimes, so that means I'm a 10 and a half or 11 sometimes. So I'm out there, and we'd spent the week in LA, and then there happened to be a shoe store, and the brand is, I'm just going to say, so if you're curious, it's called Koyo. It's a Italian, shoe manufacturer, and they're just online because they're in Italy, right? So whatever, you can order the shoes, try them on, return them, whatever, online. Well, it happens that they have, as we're leaving LA, I realized we're staying in Santa Monica. They had a shoe store in Venice, which is like right next door, like a 3-minute drive from where we're staying. I had no idea. I could just gone there, tried them on, and bought them. So what I was most looking forward to going back to LA for the Rams to talk to Stafford and them out there was I could get my chance to go back to Venice and go to that store and try on these shoes. And I did. And the minute I get on the road from LAX, it's a 15-minute drive. My GPS stops working. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't know where I am. So I'm trying to figure this out old school.
Yeah, but you're from there. You don't need a GPS.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been to the store before, so I don't know every side street in LA. But so I figured out it takes me twice as long. It takes me 45 minutes to get there. I'm all over the place. Finally get there, go to the store. There's a little sticker on the front. Back in 5 minutes. Back in 5 minutes. So the person there had to run an errand. So I've got to. I'm like, this is just not. And it's going to close in about an hour. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to be this close, and I'm going to miss my chance. And the store, by the way, is about an hour from where I'm staying in Thousand Oaks. I'm like, this might be my only chance to come here. And luckily, the guy came back. I tried on the shoes. They fit great. And I finally, Sean, got what I wanted. That was my favorite thing. I'd been looking forward to this for a long time. And I was thinking, and the whole time, we talk about all our little, I mentioned this before, like all your rooting interests, whatever. I was like, wow, if they play the Rams, I could go back to LA, maybe go to that store. It was such a dumb, petty thing to think about, but it made my week in LA, which is a really fun time.
That's not petty. That's not petty. We're going to have an off-the-air conversation about the definition of petty. That is not petty.
Looking forward to buying a pair of shoes is pretty petty.
That's not petty at all. It's just like Stafford wasn't petty. We are going to have to, we'll have a conversation. Listener, I want you to know Carlson and I are going to have a conversation about what petty is, and because him wanting to get some shoes is not petty. It's just wanting to get some shoes. Yeah, that's not petty at all. Stafford wasn't petty. Stafford didn't deserve the booze.
Stafford was totally.
There's some subtlety going in there with the booze. By the way, with Stafford, he didn't deserve the booze. He can expect the booze. Of course, they were going to boo him. But saying that he deserved the booze, I don't know if he deserved the booze, but he had to expect them. And I think there's a difference there in the phrasing. But that's another story. But yeah, no, listener, Carlson and I are going to sit down and maybe have some lunch. And we're going to talk about the fact that if he thinks him getting some pair of shoes, some cool shoes he's been thinking about, is somehow petty. Okay, yeah, we got to work through that one. We definitely got to work through that one. Because of course you did, and you should have. That's not petty, though. That's not petty. All right, my favorite thing is it's simple and it's quick. I've never experienced anything like that in my professional life as I did Sunday. I've been to World Series. I've been to Super Bowls. I've seen teams win championships on home courts. I've been to Final Four. I've been to NCAA championship games. And I was at a national title game a week and a half ago, whatever. The atmosphere at Ford Field, the history, the connection of this team, the Lions, to this city, the way this city sees itself, the way the Lions, if they see themselves, the way the Lions fans see themselves is kind of the way the city does. What it meant. You mentioned earlier Stafford coming in, but just all that in play. I've heard since from people that watched from home and saw the overhead shots of how good the city looked. The fact that Mike Tirico was on the broadcast. I heard that clip at the end, and Chris Collinsworth sort of threw it to him and said, okay, what does this mean? Because he lives here. So he has some sense of what it meant beyond just a wild card win. Other, like you say, Carlos, other markets like, what? It's a wild card game. What's going on? No. There were people taking ashes of their parents. I mean, maybe just one. Our colleague Jeff Seidel's working on a story about that, right? There was, all these folks crying around the stadium, some because of the game itself, some because they grew up going to the games with their dad and their dad wasn't there and their dad died last year. I kept hearing story after story after story about all of this. I've never felt anything quite like that. And maybe you're right, Carlos. Maybe it won't be like that when they play Tampa. Maybe it won't. But I've been to a lot of amazing, I've been blessed, a lot of amazing sporting events over the years. Never felt or seen anything quite like that one. And it was deep. And it was because of this area and the state we live in, particularly the city we live in, work in, and the region we live in, and how we see ourselves and how other people see us. That game was about that. And you could feel it. And yeah, that was by far my favorite thing.
Totally agree. Great observation, and totally agree. And by the way, Lions did a fantastic job with that presentation with the light things,
they did
bracelets, and all that. They do a very good job with their presentation overall, but this is a different level. They really did outdo themselves.
They did. And you and I are going to, at some point, we'll see if they win or not. Maybe if they don't, but at some point we ought to talk in another podcast. We need to talk about the owner who has made a lot of this possible. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Who's changed some things and wanted to change the feeling in Allen Park to start and then went from there. So, and we're talking about Sheila Hamp, of course. All right. Good to see you, my man. I'm glad you got your shoes. I don't like it that somehow you felt like that was petty. I don't. That makes me sad. I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to enjoy them.
No, I'm enjoying them.
You deserve them. I don't want you to second guess. You know what I mean? You deserve that. It's something that matters to you. It's good. All right. Let's get out of here before I lose my voice. It's good to see you as always. And can you thank the people?
Yeah. Let's thank humbly. The most non-petty person I know is Robin Chan, our producer. Quickly followed by our also non-petty people, our executive producers, Kirkland Crawford and Anjanette Delgado. And the least petty person that we know, we have to say this under our contract, is editor Nicole Avery-Nichols. But obviously, the most non-petty person, right, has to be the one listener who gives us their time every week, right, Sean?
That's absolutely right. Thanks for joining us. We're grateful that you stay in with us even when we go a little bit long like we do today. Forgive us, but hey, we had some historic stuff happen in the last couple of weeks with the national championship and then the first playoff victory in 32 years. So, give us, maybe it'll cut us a little bit of a break here for going a little bit long. All right. Obviously, you find us wherever you find your favorite podcast, Spotify, Apple, rate us. When you get there, subscribe. Let us know what you think. And we will be back Sunday evening after the Lions play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the divisional round. And we'll see what happens. They're going to be either on the verge of the Super Bowl or the season's going to be over. But fun stuff either way.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
All right. Me too. See you soon, bud. And talk to you all soon.